I'm Blue Bailey.
And I'm Dextra and this is Reading is Fundamental.
The show where we talk about news in entertainment law.
Yes, that leather daddy
And that drag queen
are both licensed California attorneys.
We celebrate queerness,
sex positivity,
and reading bitches for filth.
And with that being said,
the library is now open.
Officially.
The library is open.
Because reading is what? Fundamental.
The information on this podcast is for general information purposes only. Nothing in this podcast should be taken as legal advice for any individual, case, or situation. This information is not intended to create an attorney-client relationship. Sorry about it.
What?
Fundamental.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Reading is Fundamental. I'm Dextra
And I am Blue Bailey.
So happy to have you.
So happy to kind of have you here.
Wow, here we go, right off
Dextra showing up, doing the least.
I am recovering, as you could probably hear, from a sinus infection, so we are not in drag. Actually, if you're listening just for the podcast, I'm totally in drag. If you're just listening to this, I'm absolutely 100% in full drag.
And if you're not and you're watching on YouTube, automatic 25-point deduction from her scores.
I want to talk about our trip to Chicago for the second time this year. Earlier this year, we went and visited for International Mr. Leather. That was in May.
Yes.
And that was Memorial Day weekend. And then we went on Labor Day weekend for Miss Continental.
Yes. So we were, in essence, there for two very different drag pageants.
Yeah.
First being Leather Daddy pageant, and then second being Miss Continental.
I was going to say that the weather was so different. Like, in May, I was like, oh, it's going to be summer, and it's going to be so nice, and whatever. And it was freezing in May. And then we went in September. No, wait. Was September? No. Yeah, okay. And it was, like, warm. It was, like, 90-something.
I mean, I was sick most of IML, so I stayed in my hotel room pretty much every single day. But yeah, the weather was great.
It was miserable.
For Labor Day.
The weather was so different, but it was a way different experience. I mean, like, when IML, it's very, like, leather market type thing, and, like, kind of lots of parties and stuff like that. And this time was, like, very strict. Like, we had a certain schedule that we had to be on, and, like, we had to go places and do things, but... Yeah, so, I mean, I competed for the first time as contestant number 1 in Miss Continental, and you...
more importantly, I was number 1 assistant.
You were number 1 assistant. We got these cute badges. Mine said contestant number 1, and yours said number 1 assistant.
It's funny that you felt that Continental was more structured, because I felt that it was a lot more laid back than IML.
Oh.
I feel like IML, there's just, like... the leather market to do, and then party, Steamworks, and it's just like nonstop.
Yeah.
Where like Continental was, yes, you had scheduled things, but like in between, there wasn't like a bunch of like circuit parties going on. It was like a nice, kind of, at least for me, it was a relaxing weekend.
For you, it was relaxing. For me, I was like stressed the whole time. So many things went wrong on my Continental journey. I only had a month to prepare, and my evening gown designer decided that they didn't want to give me an evening gown, and I lost $1,700 and had to find an evening gown in 48 hours.
Who was also going to be your handler.
Who was also going to be my handler, and so in just a couple days before we left for Continental, I didn't have an evening gown or a handler.
And luckily, I had been wanting to go to Continental for years, and it just never happened. I never remembered to get tickets. And this year, I like put a reminder in my calendar. I'm like, I'm going to go. So Sean and I were actually already going on our own. And it just was kind of by happenstance that this was your year to go.
You were very excited when I qualified. You were extremely excited.
Extremely excited. And then I found out I had to be your handler. And you're like, that's not really appropriate. You don't even know what a bangle is. And I still don't know. Right. Is a bangle a bracelet or is it like a hair thing? Yeah.
Or like if it's for swimsuit, we need a bangle. And you're like, what's a bangle? And I was like, oh my God, you can't be my assistant. Like, what is happening?
But I had the best time. Like, I not only got to get like an in-person audience experience, I got to have like the full-on backstage experience and see how everything was made.
So, like, for real, tears, all the things. So many things went wrong before, but I feel like when we got there, it was like how it was supposed to be. Like, I couldn't have imagined going through the whole experience without you, you know, and like doing that, and having you there and do it, like, really, honestly. But I mean, this was your first time. I mean, you've helped me like in the dressing room and stuff a couple times, but like this was. You know, I didn't know what to expect really as my first time and like what it was going to be like and everything. So we did like a rehearsal the night before to be like, okay, this is how we're going to get from evening gown to swimsuit, from swimsuit to talent, like what we're going to do. And we had the least time because we were contestant number 1. So it's like, okay, we had to get it done really quick. And I'm so glad we did that rehearsal the day before because it went fast, girl.
And you mean rehearsal, just me trying to dress you up and drag in your room and putting your wig on backwards?
Yes. Yeah, I was like, here's how you put the wig on. And then he's like, okay, put it on. I'm like, this is literally the back. Like, this is like not, you put the lace in the back. But you learned how to like puddle a garment. So like you can step into it. And you learned how to put a wig on, or at least, you know, kind of come up from above and like put the wig down. Mm-hmm. You learned how to like smooth the hairs with the hairspray.
And more importantly, I got to meet so many people. All right, what I love about this event is that, I don't know, I feel like Drag Race has become so mainstream that you go out to like a gay bar and you get like in a very eclectic crowd of people. And by that, I mean, there's a lot of straight people there.
Yeah.
This feels like something that the straight people haven't discovered. And it was really amazing to just be in a theater full of queer people supporting queer people. And I thought that was pretty amazing. Yeah. And it was a bonus that you're just walking in the audience and you run into Vanessa Van Cartier and Envy Peru.
Yeah.
And like all these international queens that I thought I would never get to meet. And they would just like stop and have a conversation with you.
I was so gagged. When you had told me that before where you're like, you know, it felt like a very queer space and you liked that. And I was like, well, we've been to a couple like Drag Race finale tapings and you're like, no, there's still like straight people there, blah, blah, blah. So I get what you mean. Like this felt very in the community.
Yeah.
And I was like, you were very gagged for Envy Peru. You're like, if you see Envy Peru anywhere, you need to tell me so I can ask her for a photo.
We were talking to her and she had these crystals
her makeup was
all
amazing.
up in her eyes and I just was mesmerized.
Her makeup was amazing.
It was, yeah.
That's, I think by that time I was like, okay, like this is a good experience for me. I'm so glad I did it because I got to like be here. I got to understand what this was like, and then I got to meet all these other people, and then meet some of the other contestants and everything like that. So it's been good.
Yeah,
it was a good thing. But speaking of other contestants, we not only have a contestant with us today, we have the Miss Continental herself, Miss Zhané Dawlingz with us.
Hello. How are you all?
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you want to read her intro?
Yeah. So as a little bit of a background, Zhané Dawlingz has been performing in the nightclub bar scene as a local entertainer in Columbus, Ohio for 9 years. Zhané influences for her talents through her appreciation for pageantry, fashion, and pop culture. A couple of her most recent accomplishments was presenting a 12-piece collection at Columbus Fashion Week 2021 and playing Kathy in 9 to 5 at the Contemporary Theater of Ohio, which was their second highest grossing musical. As a proud representative of the Black and trans community, she is happy to share that coming at the end of September, she will be headlining her own production at Access Nightclub. Definitely keep up with her on social media to see what's next.
Yes! Thank you so much for being here with us today. We really appreciate it. We're so excited to have you. We've been talking about it for days.
Yeah.
It has been nonstop work since getting to Chicago on that Friday.
Yes. So before we get into any of the other things, I just like, you were the last preliminary, weren't you?
I was.
But that's insane to me because I was the second to last preliminary.
And you were in like July. So when does that mean you competed?
Yeah. So my preliminary was August 4th.
God.
So it was literally a month before nationals.
Wow. I was freaking out because ours was the weekend before that. So we had like 5 weeks to do. I was like, how are we ever going to do this? And then I saw that you guys were I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
You did
Well,
amazing.
I definitely will say the preparation has been for much longer than that. I mean, I definitely, like, for instance, my evening gown is something that I actually have started working on more than like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's actually been a very collective journey of the entire package as a whole.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll get to the evening gown in a minute, but we wanted to give kind of just a little primer on what Miss Continental is for all of our listeners who don't know. But Miss Continental started in 1980 by Jim Flint, who owns the Baton Lounge in Chicago, and he wanted to start a pageant because of the discrimination that he saw in other pageants, other circuits. So, like that, Miss Continental kind of just became known for being more accepting of trans women and trans competitors, and it's turned Miss Continental one of the most fiercest and coveted competitive pageants in the community. And that's why winning the title of Miss Continental is so well regarded. And it's been going for 43 years now. There's, of course, notables who have kind of done this crossover with Drag Race, like Vanessa Van Cartier, Brooke Lynn Hytes, Naysha Lopez.
Sasha Colby.
I literally didn't even write her down. I forgot that.
Wow.
I forgot. The next one I wrote was Zhané Dawlingz. Who is your predecessor? Had a wonderful reign.
Miss Continental Forever.
Miss Continental Forever. Yeah,
And that was a brand new kind of award that they created for her. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's amazing.
That's
yeah.
really amazing.
It was all a big surprise to all of us.
Yeah, for sure. And the pageant consists of a certain amount of categories. You have talent, evening gown, swimsuit, interview, and then a presentation, which is not judged. But it all happens over Labor Day weekend. And in order to get to this national pageant, you have to qualify at one of these preliminary pageants across the country and across the world. So there's preliminary pageants in Colombia and in Europe now, and Jim Flint was saying that maybe Australia, so hopefully you'll be getting to go to Australia soon, and maybe Rome. So you qualify by getting into these preliminary pageants, either winning or getting first alternate. I was first alternate Miss Western Elegance, and I believe you were Miss Continental Ohio, correct?
Yes, Miss Ohio Continental.
Miss Ohio Continental. Yeah, so then we all get to Chicago on Labor Day weekend, and they ran it a little bit differently this year, I've heard from previous years, where we did our interview on Saturday afternoon. We did our registration interview on Saturday afternoon, and then Sunday was kind of like the big preliminary day where we did all evening gown, swimwear, and talent right back to back. And then the next day after that, the Monday, everybody showed up for presentation. And if you made it to the top 12, then you proceeded to do your package or your second package that day. So that's kind of, I think, a good, easy way to encompass like what this pageant is and what it entails. But a lot of that is supported by the guidelines that are set out by Miss Continental and the title holder responsibilities. So we wanted to kind of comb through those. We both read through them with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah, I'm actually like the most excited to chat about this. This is exciting. Let me like pull that up. Okay.
But I mean, there's lots of rules about like where you can go, the things you can say, blah, blah, blah. Are you looking at the title holder one right now?
I'm looking at the code of conduct. A lot of the things that I saw in the code of conduct are repeated in the guidelines, but it's just, this is the shorter document. That's easy to read. Okay. So we talked about like the scoring and what the actual pageant is. This focuses on more of the responsibilities of the contestant and how they represent themselves. And the first thing that kind of stuck out to me is that if you don't speak English, you need to provide your own translator at your own cost. And in addition to that, if you win the pageant, you're responsible for going to other preliminary pageants and presenting yourself and performing. And if you need a translator, you kind of need to foot the bill for this person's hotel and travel costs. And the thing that kind of was weird to me is that you still need to get your translator approved by Continental. I didn't really understand what that was. Like, if you're paying for someone and fronting the bill for them to travel with you, it should really be whoever, don't you think?
My only thought about that is, like, at least with the experience of it, there seemed to be, like, a lot of times where you needed to get things approved. Like, if you wanted oversized props, you needed to get approved. If you wanted to use, like, video or something, you needed to get approved, that type of thing. So I think they just want to kind of, like, have a clear understanding of, like, what's going on and how the pageant is being represented.
I could see that. It's just, I guess, combing through this, there's a lot of ways that Continental kind of wants to control their image, which is a great segue to the personal care and kind of conduct section. There's no nudity allowed, no vulgar language, no drug or excessive alcohol use, and the title holder must be drug-free throughout their reign. Like, what? In today's, like, standards, what is drug-free? Like, if you live in California, can you smoke cannabis? Like, if you live in Colorado, can you do mushrooms?
This is really your expertise, I feel like, is like, here's the rules, and you're like, what is the way to get through the rules?
Get around it.
Yes.
How do you make it? What if it's medicinal?
But this is like something that has been a discussion in, I mean, federal law, period, right? Like, it's like, you know, can you prosecute somebody because they're using cannabis when it's legal in the state of California and maybe not in their state?
Well, I would personally interpret that into saying that obviously, you know, if you do engage in something that is considered drugs or something that is not necessarily looked in the public eye as being the most professional or brandable, I would say you want to do those kind of things in your private time, specifically when you're not necessarily being in the public eye.
Yeah, and I think
because obviously, like, everybody is a human being, right? So, you know, we all are going to do things that are considered certain vices that get us through certain times of the day.
Yeah.
However, I think that as a title holder, you have to understand that not every moment is the right moment to do something with everybody else.
Exactly.
So it's really about picking and choosing those times where it's like, okay, maybe I can let loose and kind of be myself, but also making sure that, you know, you're around people who are not going to necessarily blackmail you or, you know, try to push you into doing something that necessarily might get you caught up in the long haul as well. So it's all about, like, making sure that you're with the right people, making sure that you're choosing the right place in the right time, and also understanding that not everything needs to be done in the public eye.
Yeah.
That's how I interpret it.
Yeah, I think it's more like while you are representing the title. You know what I mean?
I totally see that. The language to me is a little broader to encompass everything. Like, to me, it makes total sense. If you're at a pageant, like, don't be lighting up a joint in front of people. Like, you have an image to uphold. But I mean, if you're out with your friends at a bar, like, do you really have to be worried about, like, someone talking shit or, like, taking a picture that you don't need to be seen? And
well, in that regard, I do think that, considering that this is, when you're looking at a platform that is both national and international, you have to think about, if you choose to act upon doing whatever vice that you're choosing to do, are you putting yourself in an environment where somebody could or potentially would say paparazzi you in that kind of circumstance? You know, so you have to, it's all about picking and choosing the right time. You know, like, you could do something at a bar around a bunch of people, but is that really going to be better or worse than going to maybe, like, somebody's home and doing it in the comfort of somebody's home?
Yep.
You know, you got to pick and choose what kind of environment you want to choose to display the type of person that you are.
Yeah. And that comes with wisdom and age and experience and that type of thing, I think.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But there's a lot of other responsibilities. So there's, you know, you have to be present at the preliminary competitions, and the promoters are responsible for kind of giving you a per diem or a little stipend in order to do that. So there's going to be a lot of travel for you in the next year to go to all these preliminaries. I was thinking about moving to Las Vegas, and they're starting a Sin City Continental next year. So so maybe I'll be able to see you in Las Vegas next year. But yeah, so that we have all those title holder responsibilities of travel.
I think it's ironic that they're calling it the Sin City Continental, knowing that in essence sin is not permitted as part of their branding.
My goodness. You love the semantic little arguments.
I do.
You love. He's like, well, the verbiage here. No, not the verbiage here. So it's like, in addition to that, it's like title holder responsibilities of being at the prelims and conducting yourself in a professional manner, that type of thing. We talked about the language. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, a few things. This one's not controversial, and it's kind of good to know just for any self-promotion. You need to provide a headshot and a picture of yourself, and you also need to make sure that you have the rights to use that. There's plenty of times that you may work with a photographer and you get like free photos out of the shoot, but you don't necessarily think
that's a good point
to get the release. I actually encountered that working with a photographer to use the photo for my book. He gave me a copy to use for personal use, and then I wanted to use for the book, and it was a whole process kind of to get the official release.
She wrote a book. It's called Blue Movie. It's available on unboundedition.com.
Thank you. But no, it states several times throughout both of the documents here that if you have any promotional photos that you're providing to Continental, you need to have a release for them to be able to publish it in the program, on social media. They use Sunny's photo on tickets. So I think it's just generally good to know about.
So you're going to need to get the rights for that.
The other thing, do we want to get into the controversial?
You want to get into the controversial one. You always like to get messy.
Okay. The dark web. And I'm just going to read it verbatim. The title holder must not have any photos appearing on or be listed under any aliases on any dating escort app, website, or blog, nor in any type of print and or electronic publications relating to advertisement for escort or dating services.
So you are officially disqualified.
I am officially disqualified.
You cannot be in any of the... You are on rentmen.com. You were on rentmen.com.
Allegedly.
Not allegedly. We can go find you immediately.
I thought that's, again, it goes back to the branding of Continental. I as someone working in adult entertainment, see that as a little sex negative. But what kind of stuck out to me, I understand Continental wanting to control their brand, but it feels like, based on the wording here, it's any picture that ends up online, whether you put it there or not. So it kind of feels like someone could post revenge porn, or someone else could post your photos without your consent, and you could still, in theory, be dinged for that.
See, again, this is good. You're very good about like finding what the exception is. So you're saying okay, I'm not gonna put any of these photos anywhere, but what happens if some of my nudes get leaked or whatever it is?
Yeah.
And in California, there are like these revenge porn statutes that we have. We quotes revenge porn because it's not really like revenge, but if you put somebody else's explicit photos online or share them without their consent, then you can be charged for it. So I think that's kind of what you're getting at here, right? Is like, what happens if somebody does that?
Yeah, it appears that the contest could ding you. I mean, at the end of the day, all of the rules are ultimately interpreted by, is it Jim Flynn or James Flynn?
Jim Flynn.
Jim Flynn, and it's his decision. And I'm sure in that situation he would side with the person whose photos got posted. Hopefully, I would think. But I don't know. Like I would want more specificity here myself.
In the language.
In the language, yes.
Maybe in the future they will hire you to
rewrite
up
the contract.
Their language.
Oh my God, I would love.
Yes. Well, are you done? But with all the things you want to talk about in the contract, we can learn more about Zhané.
There's one more. One more. Okay. The last thing is that the title holder cannot use the pageantry system for a platform for expressing
political,
a
or religious.
political or religious point of view. And I think just like, how do you you as a queer person, like hosting fundraisers, being active for the queer community, how is that not inherently a political viewpoint, and where do you draw the line? Like, as Miss Continental, can you come out against drag bans and support fundraisers that are raising money for the ACLU, or would that technically be in violation?
I would say for me, as far as like where I would waver within the political climate, is really to more so be an advocate for my community and for the people that I know that I was already speaking up for prior to becoming a title holder. And for me, I feel as though, like, when you become a title holder, you have to understand that if you speak on something that you don't necessarily know 100% about, you obviously can sort of fumble and drop the ball and become stagnant on what it is that you want to get across. And so that's why I feel as though you really have to be solid on the base of where you're coming from to know where you're going. And so I, as a Black trans woman, am always going to be a pro advocate for that. And as a international title holder, I will show up as myself to always be a voice for my people, because that is something that I will forever be a part of. But say, like, if it was a situation to where, you know, it really was, you know, about something that had to do with, let's just say, determining the presidency, you know, that type of politics, I feel, is where it's not my job to necessarily sway people in one direction or the other, because in that regard, you have to make your own decisions for what is best for you. Yeah. So that's where I kind of take staying out of the political rule from. Yeah. In my regard.
I think, I mean, it's crazy. Well, it's interesting to think about, like, what is political, but it's like, unfortunately, like, LGBT issues are political. Like, they shouldn't be. Like, people should just exist. Like, you know what I mean? But they've turned it into a political issue. It's like, pretty much everything is a political issue at this point. It's like, are we talking about, like, school curriculum? Oh, now we're talking about, like, you know, why you should be saying and banning books and, like, blah, blah, blah. It's like,
even, like, access to prep.
Even access to prep. It's like things like this. It's like literally everything has become political. So it's like, it's kind of hard to navigate that line. But I think you're right on the money in understanding that. It's like, okay, well, identity is who we are, and like we need to stay up and protecting our community and all that kind of stuff. But like things that are inherently political, like, okay, we're, you know, political office and that type of thing. It's like, okay, that falls into the political line, I think.
Yeah.
Well, let's learn some more about you. The hard part is over with all the contract stuff, but tell us more about yourself. When did you start getting performing, and did it start with your singing? I mean, we were all blown away by your talent at Continental.
Thank you. I was blown away with yours.
Oh my gosh.
Singing out there. Honey.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God. I can't tell you how nervous I was, because I was contestant number 1, and so I had to do my sound check in front of everybody. Like, everybody was there. They're like, okay, contestant number 1, sound check, go. And I was like, okay, here we go. Like, I hope I don't screw this up. But yeah, so tell us, how did you get started?
For me, so I actually started doing musicals in 3rd grade. Where I was the Wicked Witch of the West in our rendition of The Wizard of Oz. Wow. And since then, it's really kind of been my life as far as like theater, the idea of what it means to truly be a triple threat, which covers all forms of entertainment, singing, dancing, and acting. And just really having a passion for understanding what it means to make an audience feel good. You know, I really developed a passion for not just being able to showcase who I was on stage, but being able to receive the love of what I'm doing on stage really is the impact that keeps me going. And throughout the years, I've definitely done a substantial amount of theater. I've done Rent. I've done La Cage aux Folles. I've done 9 to 5.
Yeah.
The Wiz. Footloose.
Oh my goodness.
A handful of different things, and every experience has really just kind of built upon the other, and just really groomed me to the person I am today.
And this has all been in Ohio. You've lived in Ohio your whole life?
Yes, born and raised.
Wow, in Columbus?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, how cool is it? They must be so proud of you, your whole community.
It's been absolute just havoc back home. Like, so many people are just like, oh my goodness, like, especially being that this was the first time that the Continental Crown has ever come to Columbus, Ohio.
Yes.
I won't say to Ohio. It's up in Cleveland.
But Columbus is proud.
But, you know, being able to be like a Columbus native and bring something back home, I joined a roster of many other entertainers who have graced the national stage, including Nina West as former EOI, Miss Mary Jane as former USA newcomer, and Devastation as former Miss Gay America. So
yes.
I'm really, really just so honored to have achieved something that is within the same class, but is very much a lane of its own accord.
I'm so glad we're able to do this. Like, we were very far away in our numbers, so we weren't able to like see or talk to each other at all. So it's like we're finally getting to talk to each other. I was able to see, you know, the people who are around me. It's like the contestants 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like, okay, I knew you, but it's like I wasn't able to talk to you at all during the pageant. So
yeah, what number were you?
31.
31. Okay, so you were in the second half.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's
I
a
was,
good.
like within the second to last group.
Okay.
Yes.
I got to see it. Jake had to like go run and drop bags back off at the hotel, but
I got to see the second half.
yeah.
But like the way for people listening, the way they ran it is because there was 38 contestants, I think 37, 38, who were doing it, and because it's so quick and because it's so back to back, they split it into 2 groups, and so it was like 1 through 19 and then 20 through 38 or whatever it was.
I don't know.
So there were two separate ones. I was in the first group, and then we ran through all of our package, and then
all of them.
Yeah.
1 through 19.
I thought they were doing everyone just helping out, and I'm like, oh my god, we have plenty of time. There's 38 other people that are like we have to run through. No, it's 18. It was like done.
The thing that gagged me
on top of the second group, which was me trying to get in there.
Yes, after we were
done.
Yeah.
So mind you, I got dressed in the laundry room for prelim night.
Yeah. It's insane because there's like no space. Like, how do you do? And then they were they're like, oh, well, we set up tents for you outside. Bitch, it was 90 degrees.
It's hot outside.
It was 90 degrees.
We had to go buy you a fan.
We bought a fan. We DoorDashed a fan so that we could.
Yeah, we definitely bought a blower too.
Sure. A blower. What's his name?
Oh my god. But it was. I mean, we you know, you hear, and then of course Sunny was at our prelim, and Sunny was like, "You guys, it goes fast." Blah 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 blah. We were you know, we were like, "Okay, it goes fast." Blah blah blah. We were gagged.
Yeah.
I mean, the both of us were like, "Oh, this is fast." And the thing that got me like screwed up in my head was like I went evening gown, and then we rushed down. You know, got ready, did swimsuit. Of course, my makeup got him a swimsuit. Blah blah blah. But then like we went back up, and number 19 was still like was about to go in her evening gown, and here I am in a swimsuit already. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. And then it happened again.
It was like, you know, and like, so I was able to get my first like behind the stage Continental experience by dressing my good sis Gia Montiel J Love.
Oh, nice.
At her prelim for Midwest Continental.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, that was the first time I had ever experienced what it was like to actually like dress somebody for this kind of like function.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, okay, reality check.
Yeah, for sure. Let me tell you, it's so fast.
Can you tell us a little bit about like your pageant history? Like, was this your first preliminary competing? Was this your first Continental? And like, kind of how did that start?
This was my first preliminary
Wow.
in the Continental system.
Wow.
As well as this was my first national win
Wow.
ever in my entire history. My first national title that I did go for during my newcomer circuit was US of A newcomer
Mm-hmm.
during 2014-2015 seasons. And I was very fortunate enough to have placed top 12 both times.
Wow.
I won Most Beautiful my first time, and I believe one of those times I did win Preliminary Talent, but I'm not too sure. I have also won some other local titles, such as Miss Work It, Platinum Gem City Newcomer, Circle City, and Miss Mask Newcomer, which unfortunately Mask is no longer around and with us, but it was definitely one of the hottest spots in Dayton, Ohio.
Well, then I think that leads us into our next question, like why Continental and why now? Like why did you decide this time and why this pageant?
So I have been attending Continental since Chantel DeMarco stepped down. So I want to say, I believe the year Vanessa Van Cartier was getting crowned.
2019, yeah.
Don't quote me on the date.
Yeah, I think it's 2019.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
It's okay. We can't deduct points. You already won.
Yeah, you already won. We can't deduct points.
Yeah, somewhere in there. I started attending, me and my fiance Al, we actually started attending and we were going to like the baton afterwards and just kind of like finding ourselves trying to cultivate the knowledge and understanding and the energy of what was Continental. And so within that process, we actually were able to find what started the whole journey to preparing for Continental, which was my evening gown. So my evening gown was actually some fabric that I found at Mood.
Yeah.
And I had originally like tried to collaborate with a designer at the time to manifest something that I wanted created, but unfortunately things kind of fell through on their behalf. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make this work out, make it happen, because I know that I have this desire to want to compete. And so I had done Miss Glamorous in 2018, which was a lot of fun. I had a good time, but for me, that was like, okay, that was me getting a taste of what it was like to be on the stage with what I consider at the time to be the big girls, the elite girls, you know, not the girls who, when they walk in a room, it's like, ooh, that's who I'm like to be. And so from there, it was like, all right, I'm going to just build this package and make it happen. Because even then, I was still working on Onyx, which is my evening gown's name. I was still working on him, but he wasn't really the focus. So I was like, okay, I'm going to jump back to that and really like make this what I want. Because like for me, in my career, I've always known that evening gown is one of those categories where it's like, if something that's custom reads a little bit better.
Yeah, of course.
And so I was like, okay, how am I going to create this garment of what I want? So
we're talking about the spike gown, right?
Correct.
Yes. Oh my God. It's so good.
I know you lived for that. You were living.
Thank you. And every 16 spikes was $100.
Oh!
So you do the math.
Oh my God. I've been trying to tell people how much money goes into this. And like people think I'm exaggerating. Like I'm like, no, like people will spend $10,000 just on their talent.
It's really about the timeline that you put it all together. Like I know a lot of people started preparing like months and some people were even weeks. I have been working on that garment for years.
Damn.
Now, the one thing I will say is that my 2 talent dresses were done within these previous months. my crown and gown was done between my fiance and I.
Oh, nice.
Fully hand beaded, fully
Wow.
sewn by hand. And I made my talent dresses for my
wow.
backup dancers.
Oh, okay.
Which was done about a couple weeks before the pageant.
Okay, yeah. And that was very smart. So if people don't know, there's custom to have two packages going into nationals, Miss Continental. You'll have like a preliminary package and then a finals night package. And yours was very smart because I think you did the same piece when you sang, but then prelims you just kind of delivered on your own, which was great. And then on finals you kind of just turned the level up just a little bit more and added some backup dancers with these kind of like feathers things and everything. Like that was really, really good. I think it was a really good way to turn up the volume on it and bring it an extra level above.
Thank you. Thank you. So based off of like my newcomer circuit, I know that I had done a lot of times where I would bring separate packages, and what would happen is I would always become very frazzled from prelim night to final night, because I'm always like, well, if I change it, maybe it will be better.
Yeah.
Or if I, or like you said, most of the time it's easy to be accustomed to feeling like you have to bring multiple packages because it's two separate days.
Mm-hmm.
However, I always will say this. If one package is thebomb.com, put your heart and soul into the one and make sure that you rock that one out the best way you know how.
Yeah, that's what we ended up talking about, I think, on finals night was like, there'd been the custom of maybe doing one kind of talent number for preliminary and a different one for finals. And I think, most of the top 12 did the same talent. Or at least,
there was a good number of girls who did the same, and I think that surprise and kind of wow factor was missed when it was exactly the same. But I thought that you did it perfectly. You showcased your vocals, and then there was like production that came with the finals that really just was amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you talked a little.
Thank you.
You talked a little.
Shout out to my choreographer Byron.
Well, that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about, or what I wanted to ask is like, who were the people around you that helped put this together? You talked about, I think your fiance helped put, some outfits together. You had an evening gown designer make your evening gown for thousands and thousands of dollars, and you had a choreographer. Who else?
Most of my garments were made predominantly by me. However, my sponsors and supporters were definitely my friends and family.
Yep.
Like my good sister Ava, my mother Michaela Denise, my daughter Raylyn, my daughter Star, and hotels. Like everybody really put in, and of course my biological mother Yolanda, she was there in the audience, which was like my good luck charm. No, honestly, and to be quite truthful, so my mama is the type of mama where she will send you a lot of love from the sideline. You know what I'm saying? Where she'll be like, hey, boo, I knew you was doing what you was doing, but I'm going to catch you on another day. So the fact that she was there really was just like, it really upped up the ante for me, and just like made me really feel like, okay, I'm going to really go for this and just make it worthwhile. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to feel like anybody that was coming was going to be disappointed.
No one was disappointed.
Not at all.
Not a single person was disappointed.
When you're working with like these designers and people, like, are you dealing with any sort of contracts or agreements? Is everything just kind of oral business decisions?
A lot of the times when I'm working with other designers, I view it as a collaboration. Because I make a lot of my own things. There's always that retrospect where it's like, okay, if I contact you with the want or desire to create something, generally it's because either I feel like you have maybe some access to something that I don't, and or a skill set that I might not at the time obtain. And I would definitely say that through this process, I've learned so many things.
Yeah.
When creating this package, like for instance, my presentation gown was fully hand beaded by me.
God, that's amazing.
I was literally working on it up until rehearsal for final night.
Oh, I was rhinestoning my 48-hour gown. Literally in the airport, I was rhinestoning.
Yes, so I'm like, you know, I'm the type of person where if I ask for something, usually it's because I need it. But don't make me wait for too long, because I will figure out how to do it myself.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get that for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say let's stray away from the Continental questions for a little bit to get to know you personally, and then we'll end up with like what you hope to see in Continental. But tell us, like, just give us maybe like, what are you watching? What are you listening to? What movies do you like? What TV shows do you like? What do you like to do outside of pageantry?
Well, outside of pageantry, I would definitely say, like, again, I'm definitely a musical theater person.
Yeah.
I love going and watching live theater. I love going to Broadway. I do watch a lot of movies, but I don't watch too many because I'm the type of person who likes to be occupied and busy.
Not sitting down.
Today I actually just watched Knives Out.
Oh, yeah.
The Glass Onion.
Yes, that's good.
Yeah, so I just watched that today, and I like it. It's cute. I love a little mystery. Definitely a mystery person. I like to solve mysteries. I'm not the biggest person of puzzles.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, I will watch a Forensic Files.
Yes, absolutely Forensic Files. I mean, anything true crime, really. It's like, I think the two of us are really into true crime.
Yeah.
Like, a lot.
I've been watching the Saw franchise, which is a mix of puzzles and Forensic Files.
He's very into horror, like very into horror movies.
Horror season.
It's horror, spooky seasons, all the things. I'm getting into the horror genre now because of that. So it's like I'm understanding it, but sometimes I'm still
I'm here for it.
I still get scared.
I love to watch Project Runway.
Oh my God, yes. We need to talk about Project Runway. Oh my God. I love Project Runway. I haven't been able to watch this new season, but I watched the first couple of episodes and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good.
I have a question. You have one arrow. Who would you aim your arrow at Project Runway?
Okay, this is inside baseball. The final Q&A for Continental was something along that line, which is like, you have, Continental is one arrow and you only have one chance. Where do you put your aim? That
question was a puzzle. The way
it was a puzzle. That was a very confusing question. It ended up being like, okay, what is your goal? Like with Continental, like that's.
It's like pageantry is like a bow and arrow. You get one shot. If something was what would be your aim?
Yeah,
the next
that's it.
It took like a minute to read. It was like, it was so confusing.
Which I guess is good because it gives the contestants a moment to think. But it was so confusing that you had to think what the question was as opposed to thinking about your answer.
Which is why, on top of the fact that I was trying to think about the answer,
yeah,
with everybody clapping in between every sentence I said,
you're like, wait, what's going on?
I was like, can I
finish? And you can't say shut the fuck up because that's against the rules.
That's against the rules. You can't say that.
But you could think it.
Right.
Do you? Well, I love Project Runway. Like I think other than this season, I've watched every episode of every season. Like I love it. My favorite designers are, of course, Christian Siriano. I think he's done great.
Yes, agreed.
Kato, if you know Kato, she's been on like
she's
been on a couple times. there's just so many designers that I've like loved and followed over the years, and so when this season came out, that was like, oh, it's a conglomeration of all these past seasons. I was like, this is an all-stars for the win. Like, this is so good.
It was like an all-stars of all the winners.
Yes.
Who would be your dream designer that you would love to work with?
Ooh, are we talking like worldwide?
Worldwide.
Yes.
Ooh.
Let's put it out. Let's get manifesting.
Okay, if I had to choose a designer that I would love to collaborate, it would definitely be Balmain.
Oh,
Okay.
I love Balmain.
And also, I love a good Oscar de la Renta moment.
A gorgeous gown.
But at the heart of it all,
Mm-hmm.
I got to go with Versace.
Oh, yeah.
Have to.
Oh my gosh, I feel like we found our tunnel. We can talk about fashion for a long time. I'm the type of person that like watches New York Fashion Week like on YouTube like as it comes out. Like I'll watch all the collections.
What's that website you told me that you could basically look at any runway that's like ever existed? That you use it for,
I
like,
use it. It's Tag Walk. It's an app that puts all of the looks from all the fashion shows on there, and you can like put them on mood boards so that you can have like you can organize them and like whatever. So I have like one for an evening gown, I have one for like swimsuit and like whatever, you know, like the just to pull from and have inspirations. But it's a cool app. Okay, so
Check that out.
yeah, I'll send it to you. Before we go, I just want to like ask, you know, what are you most excited about in this next year coming up? I mean, you're going to be doing a lot of traveling. This is going to be your reigning year. So what are you excited about, and what kind of, you know, what do you hope to bring to the legacy of Continental?
I'm most excited about just being able to meet people that I would have never been able to meet before.
Yeah.
And also be in places where I can officially have a seat at the table and not feel like I'm just a spectator.
Nice.
What I hope to bring to the legacy is definitely fresh faces, people who are not usually around the pageantry environment, but I definitely want for people to step out of their comfort zone and do things that they've like never done before.
That's
and
me.
So I definitely think like I just want to bring people who would have never seen Continental because they've never seen a winner like me.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I think that pageantry is on an upswing right now. Like, I feel like it kind of got, you know, overshadowed in a lot of different ways, but it's always been the gold standard. So I think that
I agree. And I mean, I definitely think like, you know, there's always more of that mainstream circuit, you know, which is the television, the movies, you know, those kind of things. And I think that's really great as far as like Hollywood is concerned. But I really feel like the beauty of what pageants do is it teaches you the fundamentals of how to be great. And it teaches you what it takes to be able to be like the people who are on TV, who are in the movies.
Yeah.
You know, because they didn't just get there because somebody plucked them out. You know, they had to work and get somewhere to get there. And so I just feel like I'm really excited to see what is all going to be in store for this year, because a lot of these places I'm going to be traveling to, I've never been to. Like, I've never been to Vegas.
Yeah.
Yay.
I've never been to California.
Oh.
I've never been to Hawaii.
Oh.
You know, and I've been to Europe.
Okay.
I've been to like Belgium and Amsterdam and Rome and those type of places. So, been there. But like, I'm really, really, really excited. I'm hoping that this Australia prelim.
Yes,
that would be
girl.
amazing.
Yes.
I surely ain't been there.
Stefan grew up in Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas is
Okay.
my
I might be
hometown.
moving there.
Any
Yes.
plans to go to San Francisco
I don't think they don't have a prelim.
At some point.
at some point?
Yes.
I know we will definitely be having Southern California
Yes.
prelim.
Southern California. I did Western Elegance, which is in Long Beach in Southern California. But I flew down from San Francisco to go do that one. But yeah, I'm hopeful that I'll be able to see you at least in one of these prelims upcoming in the next year. And I mean, thank you so much for being here and talking with us. This has been absolutely wonderful. We wish you all the best on your reign this upcoming year.
Yeah, thank you so much. And if we don't see you before, I am definitely making Continental like my yearly thing now. I had such a great time. So if I don't see you at a preliminary, I look forward to seeing you at your step down next year.
Yeah, he'll be there.
Chicago, 100%.
All right, I'll be looking forward to seeing you.
Yes. Thank you, and thank you for listening to another episode of Reading is Fundamental. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Because reading is what?
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Reading is Fundamental.
Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so we can keep bringing you the show for free. As a reminder, Reading is Fundamental is brought to you by Fleshbot.com, the leading resource for gay erotica.
DM us with your comments, questions, and let us know what you want to hear.
Or you can email us at readingisfundamentalpodcast@gmail.com.
Until next time,
remember to read your damn contracts. Why?
Because reading is what?
Fundamental.
Fundamental.
Fundamental.